Action.
Hello there, my name is Mary Ollie. I'm here to talk about testing and some alternatives to testing. First, a little bit about me. I'm a teacher. I've taught high school for a long time. I began teaching in 1970, so I've seen a lot of education reforms and education fads come and go. Currently, I'm teaching at a community college, but today I'm going to talk to you about testing first, and then I want to talk to you about some alternatives to high-stakes testing in a second and third segment here. So first, a little bit about testing. Testing goes by a lot of different words. We can talk about evaluation, we can talk about exams, final exams, tests, you name it. What I want to talk about here are the purposes of testing, and then a little bit more information on what a high-stakes test such as the SBAC, which stands for Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, the testing associated with Common Core, can and can't do. So first of all, we can take testing and divide it into maybe three categories. One kind of testing is diagnostic. Parents may encounter diagnostic testing if they feel that their child is gifted, or maybe they're concerned their child is behind, or a teacher may recommend it. So that's one purpose of testing, is to diagnose. Where are we? What's going on? A second purpose of testing is a criterion reference test, and a criteria is a specific bit of knowledge. For example, many parents want to know, is my child able to add single-digit numbers, or how is my child doing at their multiplication tables or writing a paragraph? Well, that's one kind, and oftentimes this is what classroom teachers will use. The third kind is called norm reference testing. And what norm reference testing does is it compares your child to all the other kids out there. And so when you're reading the newspaper and you see schools compared or you see countries compared, that's what they're doing. This is norm reference testing. The thing is, norm reference testing doesn't tell you whether your child can add and subtract. It just tells you how your child or your school compares to others. Well, the standardized tests mostly are norm reference tests. And the first one started around the 1800s, and honestly, I'm not going to go into the history of all the different tests, but you're probably familiar with a few, like the college entrance exams, the SAT and the ACT. The SBAC appears to be a norm reference test. It's new. It was just piloted in Idaho this spring. And with a new test like that, I'm going to share something with you. It's not about what students know and don't know, because it's going to set something called cut scores. What a cut score does is it says anybody who scores below this level is not proficient. Anybody who scores above is. So part of that is honestly still a mystery to me, despite the fact that I've taught a long time and I've actually been involved in the Idaho standards, the ISAT, and other assessment endeavors. So I'm still a little bit unclear about that myself. But let's talk about what tests such as the SBAC promise. You may hear, well, this is objective, it's going to help your child, you're going to know exactly what they can and can't do. Well, I'm going to throw something out to you. If the test is in the spring and you don't get the results back till summer, and your child goes on to a different grade and a different teacher, how does that work? I'm not quite sure. Because as a classroom teacher, let me tell you what I used to do. I used to assess my students daily, and if they were having trouble, I knew immediately, and I could help them. So I'm not quite sure how a test like the SBAC is going to help children when we don't get the results back for quite some time. So it promises a lot of great things, but the reality is we have that big question, how is it actually going to help my child? I'm not sure. The other thing is it's quite expensive. Got to worry about expenses. And when that happens, it's not just the cost of the test, but it's when we're paying for the test, what kinds of things are we unable to pay for? I'm a science teacher, so I'm seeing my science classes get more crowded. I'm seeing a lack of equipment. So we have to consider the big picture. It's not just about the test, it's about the other little dominoes out there. What are some pitfalls with the test? Well, I think the biggest pitfall is with high-stakes testing, we believe that they promise more than they actually can deliver. So I'm going to give you an analogy. You know, in America, we criticize our medical system because we think we are over-tested. The cost of medicine is very high, and part of that's due to testing. So if we pay for tests, the question is, what are we unable to pay for? Well, we're seeing the same dilemma in education. We're putting more faith in a test probably than what that test can deliver. What it does in the classroom, besides increasing class sizes, is it puts pressure on teachers, it puts pressure on students. I will tell you a story about my last year of teaching in public school. I had a young man who was being a typical young man, not taking his science too seriously, so I arranged a conference with mom and dad, and his comment to me was it really didn't matter what he did, because if he failed, the principal would fire me for failing him. So you see, one of the pitfalls, another one of standardized testing like this, is not only the money and putting pressure on resources, the domino effect I talked about, but it's what happens between students and teachers, the fact that teachers are probably going to be evaluated on these test scores. Students may or may not be held accountable. We know that it was part of graduation requirements, but we don't know how this is going to work down the grade levels yet. Some states have actually used standardized test results to hold students back. So you can imagine a third grader based on one test score. I'm sorry, Billy, you're not going on to fourth grade because of this one test score. You all should know that this is currently being debated in those states. So I've given you a little bit of information about testing. In the next segment, I want to talk to you as a parent and as a teacher about what it could be like. What could a good system look like? One that doesn't rely on spending a huge amount of money for a high-stakes test.